This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC on location, Houston BCS Championship, Michigan win. I'm here with Dan Schreiber remotely, but we're going to talk about football to start. Then we're going to talk about WearBands, and we are going to talk about the evolution of resistance bands getting into the college youth markets. So Dan, welcome to your first Halo Talks.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, Pete.
Yeah, so give everybody your background here, and usually the best ideas and the best products comes from personal frustrations that you solve on your own. And then you realize, wow, this is actually a company. So take us through that journey.
Yeah, it's a little bit like that. It's a little bit of a hybrid story. I was a college athlete, paid wide receiver at Duke, very long time ago, 61 years old now, so that was a while ago. Then became really a father and kind of an older father, and I still got 3 fairly young kids. About 8 or 9 years ago, I came across this concept. Somebody showed it to me. They said, have you ever heard of wearing resistance bands? And I went home and I Googled it that night and I came up with no hits. And I thought, this is really interesting. I tried it for myself. I thought, this does solve 2 problems for me. One, as a middle-aged father, I was running a real estate business at the time, really busy, looking for ways to work out. Didn't like going to the gym. I was not a gym guy. I liked to go outside and breathe some fresh air and get some exercise. And I thought, I can hook this thing up really simple. I can go out and do whatever I feel like doing. I can do HIIT workouts. I can do plyometric workouts. I can go for a hike. I can do anything and get a killer workout, which is exactly what it does. And then obviously as a former athlete, I thought, I used to always wonder, why do we spend so much time lifting weights in the weight room? And then we go out on the field and we run around, with our body weight doing all these drills. And I said, there's never been anything that connects those 2 things. And,
right.
and if you can't add resistance to functional fast movement, where you're actually making the movement patterns that you want to make, then there's a gap there that this thing could fill. And so we did a lot of research. We did a lot of development with kinesiologists. We played with it. We redesigned it from its original configuration. And we came up with what, today is WearBands, which, has a lot of validation. And now we're just trying to get the word out to the world that this product really fills a gap that's been out there for a long time.
Yeah, I feel like my nephew's 16 and I started doing strength training with him. And some people forget that you got to rip the muscle in order to let it repair itself, in order to make sure that it produces for you next. That's basically what the body's doing, and that doesn't want to disappoint you. Very, very simple concept. So when you looked at this, obviously there were TheraBands out there, that were more on the, maybe the healthcare or the PT side. TRX has been around for, 20 plus years. So where did you kind of see this, fitting into the ecosystem and saying, hey, I'm going to go and commit to this as a business, versus some of the other things that you had opportunities that you were doing at the time?
Yeah. The real difference is, there are resistance bands in the world, but whether it's resistance bands or weights, you're pretty static when you're using them. Resistance bands, you got to hold in your hand, and then I got to move from this leg to that leg. I got to do this, then I got to do that. I got to do this, and so to me, some have called it resistance bands on steroids. I've heard it called WearBands. The portable Vertimax, if you're familiar with the Vertimax machine, this is a portable version. There's nothing more functional than the human body, right? There's nothing more functional than the way it moves.
Yeah.
And when it moves in coordination with lots of other parts of the body. So whether you're sitting there with a resistance band or sitting there with a weight, and I'm not saying those aren't valuable, but you're mostly training muscles in isolation. You're not training the entire kinetic chain the way the body actually moves. So if you can take a simple resistance band, which we all know what the benefits are, and attach it to the body in the way that allows the body to move, freely and fluidly, then you're activating the entire kinetic chain. You're getting this entire neuromuscular feedback that is frankly impossible to get with weights, and it's impossible to get with the resistance band that you're holding, and it's impossible to get the resistance band that somebody else is holding or that's hooked up to a fence. So to me, it was just like a very natural and commonsensical evolution. If you could come up with a way that you don't trip over these things, they don't get in your way, they don't alter your movement patterns, that there's a real benefit to training with them.
Yeah. All right. So you went to Duke. So, they taught you how to think. They taught you how to look at opportunities. I made many mistakes, but, you kind of say, okay, there's a business here. It's not just a product. So what was the, maybe what kind of crossed the chasm for you to basically say this is a company? And then how did you roll this out? Because it's obviously a highly fragmented market to go after. You can kind of go crazy, like selling several bands to like a couple of personal trainers. And you're like, oh, well, that was fun, but like that doesn't really pay for much.
Well, that's right. And I'm not going to sit here and say I have a business. It's not my. I used to have a real estate business, which was a real business in my previous life, and I sort of got out of that about 10 years ago, and was looking for the next thing. And I like this idea. It was obviously very different than being in the commercial real estate business
Sure.
for 25 years. It's completely different, completely new industry. I've learned a lot, and I won't sit here and say it's a business yet. It's been, I see it. I feel like this is sort of a product it's a matter of when and not if it's going to become widely adopted, because I see the landscape out there, and I see finally people getting away from the lift heavy in the gym and go run around on the field mentality. So it's a question of whether it becomes a business. I wouldn't say it is now. We have 10, 11,000 customers. People love them. We have lots of Division I track teams using them. We have professional athletes using them. We have Olympians using them. We have kids 10 years old and up using them. But it's just a drop in the bucket, as to how big this market is that we've been able to penetrate so far. So I'm still working on it.
Do you find that there's a lot of copycats out there? Is there a patent protection on this? And the reason why I say that is because TRX, as an example, and I know the company pretty well, they were spending $50,000 a month or somewhere in that neighborhood, protecting their IP. And the end of the day is like, hey, you can either, look in a rearview mirror, send a lot of cease and desist letters out, or you can just, get your product to the point where Coca-Cola, right? There's plenty of substitutes for that. And they don't seem to have a problem getting shelf space and selling their product, right? So maybe the best way to use that 50 grand might be marketing instead of legal.
Hey, it's a great question. Patents, I've learned a lot. We have 5 of them.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. I think I don't know what they're worth, but I know you need to have them. Because you got to create some barrier. What my goal, and I wouldn't say I've achieved it yet, is to grow fast enough, become big enough, become sort of the brand name in this space, that if somebody does want to copy me, at least they'll look and say, hey, this guy's got some pretty solid patents. Why don't we just buy the company from him?
Yeah, look,
rather than try to go around. So I've taken it to that point, and we do have patents. There are copycat products. I just had a very elite track coach from overseas contacted me, and I sent him a system, and he really liked it. And then a few weeks later, he came back and said, I had some guys who were over in China, and they came back with the same thing. And it's a perfect example. This was like 5 days ago. And I looked at it and I said, look, you got to decide. It's not the same thing. You think you look similar, but I promise you that product is probably doing your athletes more harm than good, because it hasn't been designed properly. So you can use it if you want, but I'm telling you, long term, our product, we put in the time and the effort to make sure this is going to help your athlete. That's something that looks similar. It's not going to help your athlete. And obviously, it's going to be our challenge to convince people that that's true. We have data. We have some science. We're a small company. We can't, pay for huge research things. But people, that really know this space, exercise physiology, that we've shown this to without a question, has said that this is sort of the right way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Some people, when you're selling a product or selling a service to, their inclination is to try and like, what's the bottom dollar amount that I could get this for? And then, then you have people to say, hey, look, if they can optimize the results of my athletes and they can help me win, I actually want to keep them in business. So why don't I pay them a fair price for their product? So this way I can come back and get it instead of them, effectively breaking even or like, becoming the lowest common denominator and competing on price. And no one really wins from an athletic standpoint by competing on price. And I think probably the baseball market, I think, is probably the one that's been the most eye-opening to me, where I think when we were, I'm 10 years younger than you, but, it didn't cost that much to like buy a glove and, a ball and a bat. And now you go into that section in Dick's and like, holy shit, dude, like this aluminum bat's like $350,
Right.
And all the different accessories that go along with that, the glove now for sliding and everything else. So I feel like the athletes that want the best performance and want to pay for it, or at least they get their parents to pay for it.
Well, yeah, the athletes and the coaches, right? We come along. Look, I understand coaches are busy people. They are going all day long. We have coaches, we have lots of tennis coaches, track coaches. They're out there all day long. I come to them and I say, look, we have something. You don't really have to change anything you're doing. This is an additive product. We don't have to change your programming. You don't have to change your periodization, whatever it is you're doing. Add this.
Right.
And some guys look at it and they try it and they say, hey, this has value. This is going to make my athletes better. I'll do it. And then there's coaches that I can tell are, they're so busy. They're like, I got to buy a new product. I got to figure out how to use it. I got to create new programming. This is going to be tough. So, we go after those people that say, I want the best thing for my athlete.
Yeah.
And if this is going to help my athlete, it takes me a half an hour to figure this thing out and get going with it. That's what I'm going to do. We think that other group are going to come along. When we hit a critical mass, when all their competitors are using it, they're going to come along, but they're a tough sell at the beginning because they're busy. They're busy people,
Sure.
And it's not always easy to convince them this is worth their time.
What's the price point on the bands?
We have different packages, but roughly $100. Roughly $100. We have a youth package for $80. We have different resistance levels, which also compared to the competition that's out there, similar looking products, they try to do the one size fits all and compete on price. And we said, if you're going to put resistance bands on a body, it can't be one size fits all. It's only going to work for a very narrow range of people. So we create 3 levels of resistance and a 5-level resistance product. And so people can save a little less. If you're a young kid, you don't need those 2 upper bands. So it's either $80 for the 3-level package or $100 for the 5-level package. Then we do have an upper body system for another $20. And a lot of people, volleyball players, soccer goalies, people that just want to get a full body workout can attach our upper body system and then have the complete full body system.
Gotcha. Look, from a standpoint of, being an entrepreneur, you've obviously, what like NIL, looks like, name, image, likeness. You could say, hey, I could get somebody's kids to be using it. I could pay, to sponsor things. How do you think about your grassroots marketing versus what you said before? Like, where the industry's going. You're patient. At the same time, the time is now, or it's in the next couple of years where, all these youth associations are like gonna really like gear up to the next level. I think there's a significant amount of private equity capital that's coming into the youth sports market, which wasn't there before. So how do you think about, influencers? How do you think about giving out free product? We're invested in a couple of companies where I see the free product expense line, and I'm like, really? Like, do we get any return on this? How do you think about that not coming from the industry?
Yeah, look, it's a great question, and I've wrestled with it. And the bottom line is I'm patient. I found if you start chasing NIL deals and you start chasing too many influencers, you start giving away too much product. The fact of the matter is, right, we live in a world where everybody thinks they're an influencer, right? But the fact of the matter is, there's only a very small handful of people that actually are. And so we've gotten away from that. NIL deals we've gotten away from. I've gotten away from a lot of free product. For the right person, I will send free product out, and we've developed some really good relationships. We have an Olympic speed skater that's killing it. He added WearBands to his training a year ago. He set 3 national records already. He hasn't done anything different with his training, So if we find and he's good, and he publishes and he gives people good content, and we work with them. But I've decided that, the return on that investment, those investments, is sort of questionable and at best long term. And if you're a big company, you can sprinkle around a lot of money and wait a few years to actually make a profit on your sales. That's great. That's not me. So I'm going the patient route. I'm taking my time, and I'm making sure that the sales that I get and the sales that I make are profitable, even if they're just barely profitable, as we build this business.
So a skater like that, is that something where you give somebody an affiliate code and they get a percentage of the sales? There's definitely been multi-level marketing in the supplement space that's been very successful by pressurizing the trainers and the coaches, like Advocare if you know that product line,
I do.
sports nutrition. That's been a very, very successful model for 25 years since I started tracking it.
Yeah.
At the same time, that's something that's recurring where they keep it in their trunk of their car and they're basically selling it, right after the practice or what have you, and they're a distributor. With your product, it might be, hey, buy for the season, but there may not be a recurring purchase until next season. So is it affiliate code something that might be a way to maximize?
It is, and that's primarily. So we give affiliate codes, liberally.
Yeah.
We'll work with anybody. We'll see who's good, see who's producing. With Advocare, those are people that are, in it for, to make money, to make revenue producing. If we get coaches, athletes out there using the product, they're not sort of, what I would call professional affiliates, right? And their primary time and effort is spent coaching, working on their sports. They're not out there actively pushing WearBands as a big revenue source for them. But we're experimenting with that on some of the bigger affiliate platforms to try to identify the people that are really out there trying to earn revenue selling products. And when we find successful ones, we try to, add additional, layer of incentive for that. So mostly it's affiliates. If an affiliate's really good, like our Olympic speed skater, who produces great content using our system, he's a real influencer. If he says, I've been using these bands and they work, people say, I want to try them too. We're actually sponsoring him leading up to the next Olympics. So we pay him a small monthly stipend, plus his affiliate sales. So we work with all that. But for me, the key is sort of patience. It's just so easy to jump on the affiliate train and give away a bunch of free product. And 9 times out of 10, it doesn't pay off. So I've sort of backed off from that.
And what about, going into, there's a lot of specialty retail, whether it's, Dick's Sporting Goods, obviously that's, they're the mass channel, but there's also, a lot of soccer and a lot of these sneaker brands that are coming to market that intuitively I would have thought that train left the station already. But they're actually coming back and doing a good job on, sports specific.
Yeah, we do. One nice thing about our product is we have people in every sport using it. There's no limitation, as to what you could do. So I actually I'm working with somebody right now who's pretty well connected in the, retail kind of micro retail space. And we're just now starting the process of reaching out to soccer stores, volleyball stores, baseball stores. We have an online tennis store that does very well, and they're carrying our product now. There's a bigger tennis store that we're going after. So yes, we're since we've gotten away from the just the online advertising, can we scale this thing model into, hey, look, let's step back, let's start identifying all these stores, all these brands, all these track coaches. Let's start coming up with a repeatable sort of email call related sort of outreach. That's something that we're getting into now. We were just picked up by the Perform Better catalog, and we're coming out, I think in the next few weeks, we'll be in their catalog. So that's a nice feather in our cap. I'm going to see if I can use that to leverage, these other stores, because again, we're a product they've never seen before. They don't know what it is. They don't know how it works. They don't know why it works. And we still have to convince them that this is going to be a valuable seller for them.
Yeah, gotcha. So in closing here, do you have any entrepreneurial insights that, you say, hey, this is how I did it, or things that, are Schreiberisms that people say, oh, besides being patient and wait for it to come?
Yeah, maybe I should write a book on my, on the things I've learned, getting into sort of a competitive, because it's been an education, going from the retail, or going from the real estate business to the retail business. But, look, what I would say is if you're not, occasionally something you put on TikTok goes viral, don't think that's going to happen to you. That's few and far between. You better be ready to, stick it out. You better be ready to be patient, to bring something like this to the market. And you can chase sales, but if they're not profitable sales, unless you have deep pockets or a lot of equity, you're going to run out of money quickly. So, I think patience, and I think focus on, profitable sales, to keep your business afloat, right? Until you become one of those, 10-year overnight successes, which is what I'm, which is at this point is all I can become, is a 10-year overnight success. But like I said, I'm patient. We're not making a lot of money. We're not losing money. We're growing our business, and I'm going to stick at it as long as I see progress being made and people get adapting this kind of training, which I know they are. Will it happen fast enough for me before I lose my patience or want to go do something else? I don't honestly know the answer to that, but I've been doing it for 7 or 8 years. A lot of people think I'm crazy for sticking with it that long, but I hope one day to sort of leave a mark in this space, to introduce people to a simpler, more efficient, in a world of high tech where everybody's about tech, tech, tech. Everything's expensive. Everything costs thousands of dollars. Here's $100 product, that can do the vast majority of what all those high tech expensive stuff could do. And I think there's a huge market for that once, people get comfortable seeing other people doing it and hearing that this thing really works. So, I'm going to stick it out.
I think you should. And congratulations on the Perform Better catalog. That's a great start. I'm very familiar with those guys, and maybe you could get involved in their seminar series,
And there are some, pretty good influencers out there associated with Perform Better who also know who we are. Now that we're in the catalog, I'm going to reach back out to them and say, hey, let's work something out. We now we're both in Perform Better. They support you. Let's see if we can, get some of that going. So, yeah, it took me about 5 years to get in their catalog, but,
Great. That's a good space to be in, and I'm glad you have your patents in place. So that's good.